Hello there, guys. Welcome back to another episode of E&Ftv. Today we are joined by my very good friend Jodie. Right, Jodie, how you doing?
I'm good. Slightly nervous, but
So many people say this, but I promise this is a safe place.
yeah, I think it's just when you see the little sign that says recording, it's a bit like, oh.
No, fair, fair. I suppose after you've done it for about 5 years, it just becomes part of it. But as I said off screen, I hate listening to these back just because of me, not our guests. But Jodie, Chief Commercial Officer at Crerar Hotels. What I want to hear, first off, I suppose, for anybody sort of watching new audiences, we also have university students and recent graduates and people looking to find inspirational leaders to hear from. What I'd love to start with is a bit about your background,
Yeah.
how you got to where you are now, and I suppose a bit about your role at the moment. So I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna leave it to you. So please do, Jodie, take it away.
Okay, so I'll take it right back to the beginning then. I used to work for First Option, Travelocity,
Hmm.
who would book corporates and government into hotels. And that was my first kind of opening into this world. For hospitality, all I ever thought hospitality was F&B, waiting staff, which I did when I
Yeah,
was in school. I never knew what existed behind the scenes
yeah.
until I worked for First Option, and sales and revenue teams would come in and present to us and talk
Hmm.
about the hotels, and we go on fam trips, and it was like, wow, what is this world? I want to get into this world.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I did. I went to work in reservations in IHG, and from there I worked in reception, res groups, accounts, did a bit of food and beverage. Was not It's not more my forte, quite
right.
clumsy, so it wasn't for me. But
Yeah.
tried everything, and then just fell in love with reservations and all that element and managing groups. And from there, working in IHG for a few years and just a little holiday in Salford.
Yeah.
I went to work in big bright lights of Manchester city centre and went to the Palace and then the McDonald hotels,
Right. Yeah.
where I became went to McDonald's and was group reservations supervisor and reservations manager. Probably grew up in McDonald hotels. I
Yeah.
had an amazing revenue manager at the time who is a good friend, and she always believed in me, probably more than I believed in myself, and always pushed
Sure.
me to do more, to be more, give me a P&L and say to me, read that P&L and tell me what you think and how the performance was.
Mm,
And never read a P&L in my life, but kind of helping me and guiding me and helping with commentary and all the things that I try and do with my team. I learned from her and those soft
mm,
skills, and I think that's really key. You can do any training course, but actually how you take that information and how you articulate that
yeah.
um, just comes from experience and learning from strong leaders in even general managers and revenue leaders at the time, because I've been surrounded by amazing revenue and GMs throughout my career. And then I got my first revenue manager role for the Midlands in Manchester.
Yeah.
So that was it then. That was
Yeah.
the love of it. Again, worked with some amazing people, Lisa Morris and Catherine Fox at Q
Yes. Yeah.
Hotels, and they, took me under their wing. And yeah, it was an amazing experience, an amazing hotel. It'll always be my first love. And by watching Lisa and Catherine, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be cluster. I wanted to learn about total revenue. I wanted to do food and beverage. I just wanted to do
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
Um, and then I went off and did cluster roles, regional roles, with Marriott, IHG, and so on. And yeah, so that's kind of my background as such. And
Yeah.
then pandemic hit, and the current company I was working for at the time went into administration, and this role, well, the original role, which was group revenue manager, came up for Crerar Hotels, and I
Right.
applied for it and I got it. So Chris, the CEO, he joined in the March of 2020. I came on in the September of 2020, so
Mm,
it was obviously challenging, to say the
yeah.
least. But it was also a great time to join a business because investment had the investment projects are started within the group. Chris
Yeah.
was coming on board to extensive experience throughout brands and independent hotels to kind of lead the company in the next direction that it was going. So it was just a great time to join. 2 years in, I was promoted to commercial director,
Mhm.
and most recently chief commercial officer, which I hate saying because I get
Hey.
embarrassed and everyone keeps laughing at me. Just like, I didn't change my signature for days, and the teams were emailing me like, "You've not changed." I was like, "It's fine, I'm still me."
Just because
Yeah,
there's chief
so
in the title, it doesn't mean anything, I
I know I
promise.
hate it. My husband keeps going, "Chief." I was like, "Shut up." Just like leave me alone. Yeah, so yeah, I think I've not, I didn't go the academic route, and I think we talked a little bit on that.
Sure.
That's probably a subject for another day.
Mm,
But I grew up in hotels. I've learned so much. I learned to believe in myself. I've had challenges,
yeah.
and especially being a female leader, I think that's always a little bit harder. And being told I can't do it in the
Mm,
past, which is I've always dug my heels in a little bit more and go, well, I can do this. So,
yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
I think I am, and I hate saying this because I get it. As I said before the call, I hate talking about myself, but
Yeah.
I do feel like I'm a good example of what this industry can do because,
Yeah.
I know where I am, and I've done that through sheer determination and support through
Hmm.
amazing industry leaders, whether that be the CEO now, Chris, or at Haley, who was my old revenue manager, or
Mm,
Mike at the Midlands. There's been so many people that have nurtured me along the way and told me I can do it and
yeah.
given me the support. And there's people that haven't, but I've learned not to let that get to me.
Yeah.
That's been a journey for myself really to to develop myself and just kind of put that in a box and move it. I'm quite I always worry about what everyone thinks. It's who I am. Most people who
Mm,
know me will
yeah.
tell
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you know that age, Adrian, everyone knows it's kind of who I am. And sometimes I think it's my superpower though, because it keeps me humble. So keeps me in
I
check.
I can massively relate to that. Massively. Um, Weirdly enough, I did an interview recently on another podcast, not on this platform, on a different one, and it was talking about my background and whatever, and I was saying something similar. Was I was crippled for such a long time with what I thought people thought of me. So rather than what I even knew they thought of me, it was the thought of what they thought. And I built this vision of that. And one of the biggest things for me, and I'm still sort of going through it now, is trying to let go of that and
Yeah,
stop. Because I think the advice that I would have given to myself was um stop being bothered about what other people think of you and just focus on
yeah,
what you've got going on. And that for me was such a big deal because I wouldn't, just like you, I wouldn't be where I am today, but especially without this industry, because this
yeah,
industry literally transformed my life. Because as you said, somebody in particular, people like Adrian, people like those people. Big shout out to Adrian, by the way.
yeah.
If you're watching this, Adrian. um, but people like that are in your corner, that are genuinely there for all the right reasons. They don't want anything
Yeah,
from you. They're just there to cheer you on and fly the flag. This industry seems abundant with those types of people,
yeah.
which is rare, right? That's rare in
No,
any industry.
totally agree. And I think I was speaking to Adrian, I speak to her quite a lot, and it is that I know it's a buzzword as well, but you just sometimes feel like I'm winging it. I mean, like the
Mm,
the whole imposter syndrome, and
yeah,
it does go back to just let it go because actually the right people, like the likes of you, the Jane Pendleburys, the Janelles, the
mm,
Adrians, those people really matter to me, and they seem to
sure.
think that actually I'm good at what I do. I have a CEO that champions me, so
Yeah,
those people do believe in me. So if anyone in the past has thought anything other, then so be. But the
yeah,
people that matter to me, actually, that means more. And I need to, like you say, just still work on that because it's still there and
yeah, yeah.
niggling away. When it comes to business reviews, Chris laughs because I go into like this tears of like preparing, and that is because I've been burnt in the past where you have spent 20 days like preparing for something. They ask that one question and they tell you it's not good enough, that you don't
Mm,
know how to, answer that question. And you're like, I get a day's notice sometimes, and I'm like, oh, and it's
Yeah.
like, and it's because of that. But actually, I'm always okay in these meetings. I need to remember
Yeah.
that just because once upon a time business reviews were awful and people were allowed to be rude and nasty,
Mm,
that's not the way it is anymore. And I just
no.
need to let that go and just like just believe that,
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
So
exactly that. And you mentioned about sort of it keeps you humble. And I think that's such a great character trait in the world that we live in now, where everything is positive, positive. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. This is good. This is great. Whatever. And sometimes you do need, it's almost, I feel like sometimes being humble is almost like a superpower because very rarely do you even see it these days. It does seem quite few and far between, whether that be people being closed off to being honest about that or it
yeah,
just being pure bravado. I mean, I know speaking as a man, there is a sense of bravado that you need to put out there to show confidence and sort of, you know, nothing's going to chink this armor. And
yeah.
I suppose that that sort of element of that dynamic, we're starting to see a lot more of people just being honest with themselves and obviously and the outside world. And that humble
Yeah.
bit, I think, such a big deal, such a big deal. And again,
Because I think you
especially
have
the
to talk about what
yeah,
is the truth, and I think sometimes people say things that they think people want to hear on like LinkedIn
yeah,
or so on, and
yeah,
actually, I'd rather say something that's truth, that's the truth, and
yeah,
that has substance behind it than just say it for the sake of it, and just so I
yeah,
look at me amazing.
hmm
Like we said before we got this call, I hate the limelight.
yeah,
I do. It's all about the teams, it's all about what they do and how they deliver that.
yeah,
But then going back to our other conversation about, developing and supporting people, I have to embrace it because the only way that someone like me when I
absolutely,
was a teenager could think that they could do what I do has to know me. They have to see kind of what my journey's been,
yeah,
and that hopefully will help someone in the future. So I have to embrace that to help and not
yes.
necessarily to kind of put on my CV, so to speak. So
No, absolutely. And I think if we're going to look at inspirational leaders and people that are going to inspire that next generation of hotelier and commercial leader, you almost it's almost a necessity. You have to step in front of
yeah,
the camera. You have to get on that stage. You have to be. I mean, you were just saying off camera. You were recently in front of students at university, right? And
yeah.
sort of talking and engaging with them. I shout so much about having boots on the ground in those education environments, whether that be schools, colleges, universities, and so on. That is such a massive part of what you do as a leader to inspire that next generation. And the limelight, I guess, is part of that. Um, in terms of moving on then to obviously, well, I guess we're actually going to be touching on quite a bit of your team now. So this
Yeah,
is an opportunity for effectively you to step out the limelight and for you to shout about the transformation that
yeah,
Crerar Hotels has been through. So so I first met you on stage at
yeah.
Hotspace 2023, right? So
23, yeah,
so I was presenting you with your award.
yeah.
Honestly, you and I had never crossed paths before.
No,
But I'd sort of seen, you on LinkedIn or whatever, but that was about it. And after that, again, mentioning Adrian just sung your praises. So you and I have caught up quite a bit and we connected here and there and whatever. But there was a post that you put out. I only think it was maybe 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was quite recent, and you were talking, and it I think it must have been minutes after you posted it because I messaged
It was
you.
Saturday night, and it was like half nine on a Saturday night.
Yeah, so you posted it. I read it, and I was like, "Holy hell, we need to get you on the show," because everything that you described was such an amazing transformation and journey that the business had gone through. And what I wanted to find out and what I wanted to investigate a little bit more and get your insight in is for anybody that obviously hasn't read that post, what I'd love to find out is more about what that transformation was, what you went through as a commercial leader and how you spearheaded that from a commercial perspective. And of course, how working with various parts of the team did it come to its fruition, I guess. So yeah, I'd love to get your perspective on that journey and give our audience a bit of an idea of what exactly that journey was, the transformation, and where I suppose you guys are now.
Yeah, it's been I've been in the business for 4 years and 3 months, and it has
Yeah,
been a journey, and it will continue to be because this
of course.
industry, isn't it? It's ever evolving. When I first joined Crerar Hotels, we had 7 hotels, and Chris had this vision on how we reposition the business, and that came from investment to structure to processes to systems as well, and hence why I came on board. We also then marketing came in, we brought sales in, and we kind of started
Yeah,
to build this really small team. Alison, who was our group marketing, there was myself, we've got group finance, and then we brought sales in as a consultant at that time, and we were compact and Beiju, and kind of getting to know the hotels because the hotels had always, well, not always, there was previously the group was a lot larger, and when it was a
right.
larger group, there was obviously a more like wider structure. However, that changed and they went down to kind of managing everything themselves.
Yeah.
And fair play to them. Our GMs are amazing and actually have got great results from just kind of doing it on the side. I would say it's a side hustle because
Yeah.
they're running hotels, they're looking after guests, and then they are on the side trying to change their rates and do a social media post or do a sales appointment. So I always give a lot of credit to them because as a business, Crerar Hotels wouldn't have been where it was when I came on board without them.
Sure.
So you come on board, you do the usual. Obviously, we could be here all day talking about the whole process, but essentially, we needed a PMS. We needed to kind of change the way your reservations was, an RMS, F&B diary system, you name it. We needed it all.
Sure.
Booking engines, digital teams, which our amazing marketing team, Alison, who heads up marketing, our marketing director, just done an amazing job working on that too. So there's so much, and I don't want to overcomplicate this conversation because we have done a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
The the we went so the first I'd say the first 2 years were basic, putting just driving the culture of revenue isn't just changing the rates, marketing isn't just fluffy. It was kind of educating our GMs into those processes, look, managing groups, managing wash, just the basics.
Yeah.
And that isn't because I didn't know the basics. That was just because we'd never worked in that kind with that structure before.
Yeah.
So it was putting forecasting procedures in place, new Bob reports, everything. So anything you can think of, we implemented. We worked with the general managers to coach them on managing their day-to-day revenue because at the time we didn't have a team, so the GMs were still kind of doing what they could do with my
Yeah.
support and guiding them through that, which actually in hindsight was an amazing thing because I went a year on my own when I came into the business. So I was flying solo, trying to put SOPs in, processes, everything, and working closely with the GMs. And actually, that was the best thing that could happen because I got their buy-in.
Yeah.
They really understood the reasons why, if you were saying no to a group because of this, a displacement, they understood it. They understood it was for the benefit of the business. So
Sure.
just having that year with them, working with them without a team as such was really beneficial to me. And when we talk about greatest achievements, I think one of my greatest achievements since joining Career is the bridge that I've got. The you have to cut that out.
The gap that you've bridged.
The gap I've bridged between like revenue, yeah,
Yeah.
because they always say I'm their person, and I think that's kind of a testament to the work I've done
Yeah.
to kind of bring them along on the journey and kind of teach them and just let them learn from me. And also, I've never told them what to do. I've always
Mhm.
been, this is why we do it, and give them the logic behind that, supported them, and I think that's the best way to do, especially when you come into a business that is essentially independent and as
Yeah.
much in a certain way, and it's a different world when you come from a brand to an independent hotel company.
Sure.
So that was like the first 2 years, and it was a bit messy. Chris used to call it the messy middle because it sounds messy. It was messy. We were trying to figure out whether that business was right for that hotel or whether we stopped taking it. It was a 2 years of learning as well as the
Mm.
pandemic, and as well as open shut, and everything else that went along in those 2 years.
Yeah,
We then went through a sale in 2022, which then enabled us to look at the tech side, because pre a sale, we were never going to invest significantly in that element of the business.
sure.
So following the sale, it was always going to be the opportunity to look at, right, what is the next phase of what we're doing,
Yeah.
and structures and bringing team in, and so on and so on. So we go through the sale, and then we position, changing PMS, RMS, adding all this in, and many meeting with the kind of the board to kind of talk through the benefits of the systems, as well as have the GMs and the teams involved in that to
Mhm.
give their feedback on what they believe is right for their hotel. And then so all that goes that all that's happening whilst kind of getting to know the new ownership as such, and
Yeah.
how we navigate that. So again, I had a revenue exec at the time, Diana. She was a little star, kind of supporting the 7 hotels whilst we go through this integration, whilst I'm
Right.
kind of involved in other areas, trying to support Chris with the integration, with the new owners. And then we get the approval on kind of systems and structure towards the end of last year. It was probably October. So mid October, we were approved to change the PMS, add in the RMS. So from mid October to mid December, we did 7 hotels and changed the PMS in that space of time. So that was
Wow.
a challenge. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was a now or never kind of scenario though, because it
Right.
was winter.
Okay.
For us, in to do any change of that size, it'd have to be in the winter, because it's peak season. We wouldn't want to disrupt the hotels
Yeah.
throughout that period. So if we didn't do it, we would have waited to the following year. So it was on the phone to our provider and said, if you want this, you have to turn this around in 4 weeks. And yes, you can imagine how that went down. Um, but we did it,
Yeah.
and I I think the testament to that is our teams. So our general
Mm.
managers, their teams, the commercial team, the marketing team, the finance team, because so much change in those 4.5 years, from the pandemic to a new CEO, to me coming on board, implementing a revenue, the revenue function that was never
Mhm.
there before, driving that culture, to what marketing, Alison and the marketing team have done. It so much change,
Yeah.
for them, and a system, a sale. So their resilience throughout this whole process has been amazing to see,
Mm.
and support, because fundamentally everything we've ever done has been for the teams and the business.
Yeah.
It's not been it's not been anything we've decided system wise, has not been because it's been my preference. It's been
Yeah.
because the GMs and their teams have been on calls. They've said this is what they need. The feedback has been, we struggle with this, we need this, and everything we presented was always about those elements. And one of
Yeah.
the key deciding factors on who we went with was based on the level of support as part of the package. It was always
Right.
because
Okay.
I'm not on checking on a Sunday dealing with guests checking out and the system goes down and there's no one to talk to.
Yeah.
It was always about, what they need, and as a team to look after our guests, essentially. So yes, I think that was all. I look back now, especially last year, with putting the PMS in and then switching the booking engine straight from putting the PMS in and then an RMS straight
Mhm.
after. And then the food F&B diary system. And this is just for 7 hotels. So I'll come on to
Mm.
the 3 further hotels in a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all that happened probably in a space of 6 months all in all, with everything that we put in from November to probably April time before we stopped, and then we went into busy season as such, which
Yeah.
is our peak trading season. Then we kind of stopped that and then started focusing on our three other hotels. So as part of the sale, we were seven. We were Crerar Hotels, seven hotels, and
Mm.
then when we went through the sale, we acquired Dunkeld, Phonab, and Daffodil as part of a management contract. So we are the owned estate and they're the managed estate. So we
Yeah.
manage those three properties, and as part of the kind of bringing synergies and aligning the hotels and driving efficiencies, it was a case of we need to now move those hotels onto the same structure as the Crerar hotels. So we decided that obviously because we decided that Crerar 7 were going on to current PMS, we needed to move the other three. So we did them in September. So we've just done those three hotels
All right.
in September, and they came with their own challenges because bless them, these hotels had already gone through a system change, probably
Of
like a
course.
year before. Yeah.
Right.
So you've got the seven Crerar hotels that have been so desperate for a new system for such a long time. We're on
Yeah.
board with it. We're just embracing the change. And then you had three hotels, and rightly so, we're a bit burnt by having to change again, and we're concerned. And so that in itself brought challenges from just getting buy-in from the teams.
Sure.
And the only way we could kind of overcome that was to get them more involved with the seven owned hotels, and just, kind of highlight the challenges that we had in the Crerar estate when we took those hotels live, and and highlight what we so in when we took our Island Mull Hotel live, the power went in Mull across the island. There was no power.
God.
And yeah, so we had to take it
Just
live
gets
from
better.
another. I know. They had to take live from another site. So I always use that as an example to the other hotels when we're taking on that. Look, guys, I said we had to take Mull live from another hotel because the power went down for like 24 hours. I was like, so, we were there as a team to support. You will not go through this alone. When something
Mm.
goes wrong, we will be there. And that was an example of saying we all pulled together.
Yeah.
Our hotel at Fine helped take Mull live because the team were all stuck on Mull and couldn't get off the island. So
Yeah.
I just try to use examples of the stuff that came our way when doing the original project would help them, and just to alleviate some of that stress and that worry of thinking they were alone.
Mm.
I probably learned we were able to learn from what went wrong, not what went wrong in the Crerar rollout, because I think things always come up. When rolling out a system, it's never going to be perfect. You're reliant on technology, and we know technology is amazing, but we
Yeah.
also know some things go wrong. So we were able to eliminate data import issues for the three hotels because we had issues when we did it for the Crerar estate, and we learned all those lessons from Crerar for the three, but we still had issues because deposits weren't going in, so we had to manually do deposits. There's always going to be something that I will always say that I like things to be perfect.
Mm.
Probably didn't like a lot of people who probably do my role. We're very
Yeah.
controlling. We like to all circumstances. If it goes off goes off plan, it's like so it happens though, and it's just I keep a log now, and that was kind of a lesson learned, is to keep a log of all the small things, because I
Yeah.
remember the big things. I remember a data import going in and all the reservations going down one line, which meant the comments and the deposits on bookings are all on the wrong booking. And
Right.
so I
Okay.
remember that one because it scarred us, and we had to sit there and go through like 500 bookings and change them.
Yeah.
But the small things didn't remember. So I have like a little live Google Doc now when we're doing it, and anything just goes on that. And then it's a case
Right.
of because you don't remember, like you say, you
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
remember things, the little things of like, oh, don't forget the key cards, this, or don't forget that.
Yeah.
The small things that don't really cause a problem, but can be big problems if not dealt with. So we
Yeah.
kind of have like a little live document now where anything, then go, oh yeah, just put that on there, and then we can sense check that just to make sure with any other projects that we're not missing those little points.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was, yeah, challenging. But as I say, with the three especially, we kind of over-resourced in a way. We went to those hotels, we were there all week. We
Yeah.
did in-person training the week before. We made sure that they felt they had the support afterwards as well. And I think that's always key is we're all guilty. I mean, I've done nearly 40 PMS changes in my career, and you
Wow.
put it in and then
Okay.
yeah. Because I've done like groups as well, so like 20 in
Oh,
one
okay.
group.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah. But still, bloody hell.
yeah, still, I mean, it's a lot, and you put a system in, and you walk, and you generally walk away, don't you? Especially when you're in a central group role,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
team
Yeah.
are left. So I'm kind of always on with my team to say, guys, make sure you touch base with the hotels. I want feedback. We're going to put an advisory group in as well for the hotels to join, and they can
Mhm.
give honest feedback. I won't be involved in that because I want them to give honest feedback, and then the team will
Yeah.
present to me, and we can look at improving, changing, adding whatever it's we need to do to make the teams feel like when we invest in the technology, it is for them, and it's not just a case of saying that it is for them. It actually really is to help them and
Yeah. For sure.
to drive more efficiencies and to make what they do on a day-to-day basis easier, and also attract talent. I think if we can constantly
Right.
evolve and invest in what we do, we may not have the best in the world, but what we do have works, and the teams
Yeah.
really embrace. So yeah, that should help us in recruitment because it shows we care about the tools, because we care about the kitchens, what chefs
Yeah.
have. We should care about what reception and the F&B team and reservations have as well to do their job. So it's quite, yeah, something that's really, I get quite passionate about it because
Mm.
it helps us, it enables us to do more, enables us to spend more
Yeah.
time to the team, to develop them, to coach them if we've got the right systems in place.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think one thing that's overwhelming throughout everything that you've sort of described, and again, I do think back to the original post, is the relationship clearly built between you and the teams on property.
Yeah.
That, I mean, no, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna ask you the question. How vital was that at the start of this process, and how vital was that even more, I suppose, or the realization of how vital that was towards the end or where we are now?
Oh, massive. Tom, really is.
Yeah.
I see, if anyone ever asks me what my greatest achievement is, that is one of my greatest achievements, is those relationships.
Yeah.
I have the buy-in of the GMs, their support, and because I have their support, I have their team support. I'm quite
Yeah.
present. That I don't say who I am, as in I don't, walk around our hotels and go, I'm chief. Neither does our CEO either. So we are very present and very on the ground,
Yeah.
and um, that is. Someone told me once, and I'll always remember it. And he's one of my
Mm.
favorite GMs. And he knows, if he was watching this, he'll know who he is. He said to
Yeah.
me I was too nice, and I remember going in a review with him, and he said, "You're just too nice, Jodie." And I was on a train a few months ago, and he was on the train, and I said, "Do you remember, Michael, when you said to me I was too nice?" He was like, "Yeah, I got that wrong though." I was like, "See, I may be nice, and I know how to get the best out of people, and if that
Sure.
means I'm too nice, then so be it." I think
Mm.
my superpower is getting the best out of people, and getting the
Yeah.
best out of people drives a business. So if that's being too nice, then that's me. So
No, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that, right?
no.
No, and again, I think that relationship piece, and it always harks back to that soft skill element and the influencing and the getting buy-in and building trust. I think what we've seen over the last 5, 10 years is that massive focus. We've obviously seen the evolution of revenue management. There's no
Yeah,
question about that. The role of the revenue manager has changed to a point where it's almost unrecognizable to what it was
yeah,
5, 10 years ago. Now, with regards to that soft skill element, that has now become one of the biggest requirements now from any revenue manager being employed. So, from our recruitment perspective, every single time now, it's communication skills are an absolute must. They need to be able to communicate effectively with their GMs. They need to be able to build that rapport,
Yeah,
get that trust, get that buy-in and influence. Because more and more now we're seeing that the role of the revenue manager is so much more in front of people. It's like an expectation.
yeah,
You have to be
yeah,
presenting. You could have the best strategy in the world. I think I've lost count how many times I've said this on this channel, but you could have the best strategy in the world, but if you can't communicate it effectively,
yeah,
it's not going to get off the ground.
yeah,
And again, your journey in this transformation absolutely demonstrates why
yeah.
that is so important. So important.
It really is. And I could have, like I said, I could have the best like AI system in the world that tells me
Mm,
what to do, but I can't go and sit in a board meeting and
yeah.
articulate that. I have to my passion. I go. It is really funny because I go in calls and they'll be like, "Jodie, what's your thoughts?" And I'll be like, "Oh," because I'm so transparent as well at the same time. So I'm
Yeah.
respectful, transparent. So so I'm like, I always a respectful point to put across. And my face always says it all anyway. So they'd be like, and I'd be like, well, not really true. But again, I think that's such a is a great trait to have. I think I
Yeah.
grew up in a time of revenue managers as such. I have an
Mm.
amazing um colleague I used to work with, used to be commercial director at the Lowry, Kelly, and she's now a hotel manager at the Kimpton in Manchester.
Right.
And she's very similar. And I I always used to watch her and be like, I want to be like that too. She was just so this is what it is. Like this
Yeah.
is the facts and the figures, but this is the story. And yeah, learning from people like her and it's not just about Haley, my old revenue manager, used to call it was a boffin revenue manager, and then it was an us. And she
Right.
was like, we are not boffins. We are like we can look at the spreadsheet, but we can also articulate that story and that journey and
Yeah.
coach and develop and bring people along. And
Yeah.
there's a place and a time. Definitely they're all analysts are definitely required, but I also think now in revenue management or commercial, whatever we're going to call be called, because
Yeah.
let's face it, revenue has so many hats, and we are like the conductor of the orchestra, really, because
Yep.
most strategies will start here and then it'll filter down, and it comes from myself, or and I work really close with our marketing director and a sales team, and it initially comes from my view on what the strategy is and how we're going to achieve that budget, and
Yeah.
then from that every team then puts their plan together on how they will contribute to delivering that. And I think it's really key that there is that person there, and there'll always be that person. I think
Yeah.
revenue have always been that person. They've just maybe not been given the recognition for the contribution they
Yeah.
had to the business. And as you say, that is changed. And I think the pandemic highlighted that. It's also a shame that there is a shortage of revenue managers now because of
Yep.
the lack of um, respect for the role as
Yes.
such.
Yep.
And then moving to different industries where there is more respect for the role.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I remember speaking to a number of industry leaders about all sorts of things that were going on when the pandemic hit and revenue managers being sort of let go. And the constant response from the leadership side of things was from the revenue management community was they're needed to get us through this. What are we talking about here? And it was one of those where we did, unfortunately, you're absolutely right. We did lose people and to industries that may have paid more, may have, as you say, respected them more, may have given them more opportunity and more scope and this sort of thing. And that is such a shame. And I think now we are seeing a real resurgence, and I think we're seeing a focus with regards to revenue management. I don't think like we've ever seen before. You
yeah,
know, when did we ever really see revenue managers on stage constantly at conferences being heard, right? There was Inna was on a panel at Hospice, and
yeah, I
I
think we were
remember
on it last year. It was me in a
it was, and I remember
poly net
yes,
affinity.
yes, that was it.
Yeah,
Now that panel, I remember it because it resonated so much with some of the points that you guys were saying. But if you remember, there was somebody in the audience, and I think it was a tech
Oh,
company.
yeah,
And I,
about AI.
yeah, right. And I remember asking a question, and then a load of people came up to me afterwards with like, "Thank you for asking that question." But I was like, I was almost saying, and if that person is watching this, then hello. But I was almost saying to them, get back in your box.
Yeah.
We're here almost celebrating revenue management as a practice, and we've only just got here, and you're already talking about, well, we can now do this and do that and the other, and I'm just like, shut up. That was my
I know.
in front
I
of however
wanted
many hundreds of people. I just thought, get back in your box, basically.
I think Adrian said she could see in my face because I think what I said to him was kind of not that, but obviously wanted to say that. But the system can't sit there and articulate what
Yep.
kind of what we've said. And I said that on the panel. I was like, well, the system can enable me to do a more efficient job, but it can't enable me to sit in a presentation and talk through a business
Mhm.
plan, a budget plan, sit with a bank and talk them through kind of the business performance. The system
Yeah.
can't do that. It'll never be able to do that. Well, I mean, it
Yeah.
might be able to do me as an AI, but when that point comes in the world, I mean,
Hmm.
like, God, I'm out of here.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. God.
I remember, like,
Um,
Adrian was fuming as well.
what
It was,
half the room was. Half the room
well,
was.
he did in a room of revenue and finance professionals predominantly. It was a bit
I, I,
like,
I was, I was, I was shaking to a point where I just put my hand up, and I was trying to figure out how the hell do I word this that isn't going to be insulting or whatever. And I remember Adrian, these
yeah.
people sort of came
It
up,
was
tapped me
just
on the shoulder,
like,
were like, "Good one. I'm glad you asked that question." Um, now coming back to you, okay, so coming back to Crerar Hotels, what does the future hold? What does the future hold for the business, but also what does the future hold for you? Right? What have you got going on going forward? What's exciting? What would we like to let the community know about?
sleep first. That's what's
If
next.
anyone
I'm just
deserves it, I think it's you.
I was just like, I saw the photo on marketing director and I was like, oh, you wouldn't believe it was December. It feels like it just feels because we do obviously it's budget season, it's
Yeah.
business plan, it's this, it's that. So we've got all that going on, and then a bit of downtime, reviewing what we have implemented, and
Yeah.
because it's been relentless for 12 months, it really has implementing system after system after system. Now we need to go back, look at what we have implemented, what is working, what needs changing, what needs adapting,
Mhm.
putting the training together for that. Again, we do the system training when we put the systems in, we've got SOPs live, but actually now go back, put this advisory group in place.
Yeah.
Heather, who's my systems manager, who is just like gold dust, she is going to lead that. She's going to spend time with the teams and putting SOPs together with the GMs and their team. So from a system compliance point of view, Heather's involved, but actually from the operational element of how that is handled on a day-to-day basis, we want the hotel's
Mm.
input, because it's okay me saying press this, press that, I want you to do it that way. If it doesn't work for them when they're checking someone and it has to work, as long as the actual compliance elements are where they need to be. I don't care which order they do it in, if I'm honest, as long as we collect
Mm.
the data, GDPR compliant, so on and so on. It has to work for them. So that's kind of next on this whole system kind of journey that we're doing, as well as me and Alison in marketing. We need to sit down and go through the other side about how we kind of get more personable now with our customer, how we talk to them more in different ways. Now we've got better tech, and now
Yeah.
we can kind of send that data out and really harness that, and how we move forward and change kind of our demographic. That's the piece on that. And then moving into next year, we are hoping to invest in some of the portfolio, which is always a challenge because it's another repositioning project, but it'll be really exciting and
Yeah.
really rewarding. So watch this space. Hopefully that will be in 2025. We will see some new developments for the portfolio. And then hoping to partner with Hosper. Spoke
Okay.
to
Yeah.
Yeah, so briefly spoke to Jane about how we can spread the message a bit more north, on Hosper and Hospice and all the
Yeah.
brilliant all the brilliant things that they do. And I only knew about Hosper from when I worked at the Midland, actually, and it wasn't really something that was ever really talked about. And I know in Scotland, it's probably not as prominent. So it's
Mm,
kind of work speak to the Hosper team in January about what we can do.
exciting.
Um, yeah, because there's so many great educational pieces as well that Jane and the team do, and
Yeah,
it just kind of keeps you, even when you're so busy, it kind of it's like a pulse. You can just like jump into something like kind of like what you do as well, Tom. It's like it just kind of keeps you there. You could be
yeah.
budgeting for 6 months or doing projections for but the educational pieces they do just really help kind
Mm,
of keep you ahead of the curve with what's going on. And
yeah.
Chris, our CEO, is deputy chair for HIT Scotland, which is an industry-led charity. Just it focuses on development and scholarships, and I'm hoping with what he does with HIT and the HOS and what HOSPA do, we could actually make a difference,
Yeah,
partnering
for sure.
together. So, and what that looks like, I don't know. It's just more of a me sending Jane and her going, I want to do more. Tell me what we can do, and I want to
Yeah.
volunteer. You're volunteering at Hospice next year, so.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So, yeah, so that, and I think that's quite exciting
Absolutely
because
is.
they're inspirational from both kind of organisations here and hospital are quite inspirational. Obviously, I really like working with Jane and the team.
Yeah.
And then what else?
Of the list of things.
I know
What
because
else?
like what else? What else? Maybe take a holiday. Because I'm guilty at that.
Yeah.
I'm always like shouting at my team, take your holidays, and they look at me like, I'm like, well, and then there's something that's really close to my heart, and I think you and I have touched on this before.
Yeah.
Probably not enough time to go through it today in detail, but essentially, I am speaking with the lovely Adrian and Janelle. For
Mhm.
those who don't know, obviously Janelle Hosper and Adrian from Right Revenue, two
Yeah.
amazing, amazing women in this field, and kind of talking to them about putting a program together that brings in Hosper, that brings in the right revenue training, maybe working with Revenue Academy and
Mhm.
putting a not apprenticeship because that's the wrong word, but a program together that can support maybe someone who just works on reception and thinks I want to do that but isn't confident enough. And there's
Yeah.
modules that are made up of maybe reading a P&L or attending a commercial meeting and just kind of give someone who hasn't maybe had exposure to the academic world as well, and just try
Mm.
and bringing all worlds together and giving a voice maybe to someone who doesn't know what this can do. And I think we
Yeah.
talked like that's why I need to maybe talk about my story more because I
Yeah.
grew up, I think I posted that post back, I can't remember when it was, when it was International Women's Day, and it was
Mm.
I grew up in a council estate where no one ever expected anything of me to become anything.
Yeah.
And I've become who I am through this industry and just through just digging my heels in and being stubborn. And there are people out there like that, and I want to show them that you can start here and there's all these little frameworks that you can do along the way. And if you feel confident, you can do your Cert RM and just make it more accessible to everyone and not
Yeah.
necessarily someone who has had the support I've had, because I have had a lot of support, but
Mm.
on reflection, there's so many things I wish that was available for me at the time.
Yeah.
And I think would help with the imposter syndrome in a way, because
Sure.
now I'm that busy, I can't really do the Cert RM. And I've
Yeah.
been trying to do it, and like bless her, she's been trying to figure out a way for me to do it when I've been so busy the last 2 years. But if 5 years ago someone would have pushed me to do it,
Mm.
then I would have done it, and because I would have had the time 5 years ago. And I
Yeah.
just, yeah, I don't know what this is or what it'll be, but I just want to get the message and help maybe someone who doesn't necessarily have the start in life that everyone
Yeah.
has. So yeah, and what that looks like, who knows? It could be a silly idea, but it's just something that just means a lot to me. So
I think it's far from a silly idea. I think it's something that is sorely needed because of the gap. Because the advancement in revenue management, although it's absolutely amazing and the scope is widening and widening every year, that also means that that gap between somebody in reservations and revenue, it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think you're right. There are so many people, just like you, there are so many people out there that are almost, um, for the want of a better phrase, they're almost intimidated by even the notion
That's
of revenue
exactly it.
management. You know,
Yeah.
it's sort of like
Yeah.
a, I don't even know where to start, you know, or
Yeah.
it's always had this reputation for being an incredibly difficult function to get into. Um,
Yes.
and I think with something like this, that what you're proposing with the people that you're proposing to do it with, it's got there's an
Yeah.
amazing opportunity there. Let's put it like that. And
Yeah.
I think with leaders like yourself, and Adrian knows what I mean by saying this, but flying that flag for the
Yeah.
industry or the market that we're in terms of revenue management and getting more people into it, I'm always going to be behind that. And I think it's
Yeah.
definitely an initiative that is worth pushing for sure.
But I just you go into to schools now, and I do
Mm.
believe that the pandemic kind of impacted as well a lot of the younger generation, didn't it? And they
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
necessarily have the confidence as well. And we have this entry level industry where we there's so much talent and people, and I don't believe we view it the way that, well, we all know they don't. It's not viewed the industry as a whole like it is in Europe or America,
no,
but
yeah,
it could be. And I have an amazing life and I've worked really hard for that, but I didn't know I could do this, and that's kind
sure.
of I want people to think they can do it because I am not intelligent. Everyone laughs at me when I say that, but I'm not. I really love my job, and I
Oh,
really love my job, and
yeah,
I love the people I'm around, and I love learning, and I will constantly learn from the team. I will listen to things and go, oh, maybe that is the right way to do it.
mm,
Because I just think that's just the best way to be. And I want people like me that are a bit that doubt themselves to feel that they can do it. And not just like the females. I want everyone. I want,
yeah, yeah,
you are whoever you are. I want you to feel that this is an inclusive role. And that's
yeah.
kind of what I really want it to be. It's for anyone. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I can't think of a better way to end this with that message. So yeah, as I said to you off camera, I'd love to help, support, raise awareness, whatever we can do from our side. I'd love to do that. Um, but yeah, just keep flying that flag for revenue management and bringing more people into it. That's just the aim of the game, right?
yeah.
Jodie, I want to say a huge thank you to you. As you mentioned a couple of times, I know how incredibly busy you are. So the fact that you've taken some time out to do this, I really do appreciate it. Um, your insight into that transformation, into that journey, I think it will resonate with a few people, but it'll also be quite an educational thing for a lot of people that might be going to be doing something like this or whatever it might be. And as I say, we've got a lot of students that are currently studying that have an
Yeah.
interest or a passion for revenue management. So again, hearing this real life stuff from someone, as you say, with a difficult sort of start in this industry, but also isn't intelligent, as you said, it is possible. It is possible. Okay.
And the
Um,
Elwoods of hotels, that's what I always call them. My team I used to have this like little mantra that one of my team got me say, live every day like Elwoods. And I was like, oh, fabulous. That's what I want to do.
I love it. But no, I want to say a huge thank you to you, Jodie, because it's been a real
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you on. And I hope in the new year we can get you back on and see where Crerar Hotels are.
Yeah. Well, and also I think we talked when I was at the M&E event of
Hmm.
attending more of those. So obviously I want to when I say what I'll
Absolutely.
do a hospital with you as well. So
Yeah, for sure, for
I'll
sure.
see you in
Well,
London in a couple of weeks anyway.
oh, exactly. You will. Oh, you will. You will. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. But no, thank you again. It's been a real pleasure. And to anybody that's tuned in up to this point, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. We do try and bring you weekly content every single week with amazing guests, just like Jodie. And to do that, we need a really strong community. And we're up to about 350 subscribers now. So please do, if you're not already, press the subscribe button. Press the like button if you like the video and let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. But thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.